Grok 4 has dropped, and it is headlines, yes, but Jaeden, I don't know what you think the bigger headlines are here between Grok 4 coming out and it really doing super well on these benchmarks. By all indications, it's a super powerful model, and it comes right on the heels of Grok 3 going totally off the rails. Jaden's going to share some of this news as well. But let me just say this, as the new models are coming out, I want to kick this off right away, which is just to talk for 2 seconds about Jaden's company, AI Box. It's AIbox.ai. I believe that's right. And this is a tool that I absolutely love. Here's the thing. You know how you're like trying to test this, like, well, is Grok better than Claude, which is better than ChatGPT? And I don't know about you, but I'm constantly bopping around between all those things and trying different things. That's the power user. My favorite thing about AI Box, which again has taken off, super happy for Jaeden that it's taken off. But just the fact that you can sort of like go into one chat window and just try out all these models. It's like $20 a month and you can test them all out against each other. That's my favorite use case of this, but even in image generation, everything like that, check it out. It's blowing up, which I'm super happy for him again. But again, when we're talking about a story like Grok 3 versus going to Grok 4, and what's the new ChatGPT model going to be look like? What's the new Claude model going to look like? This is a place where you can test them all out. Jaeden, when you see Grok 4, and I haven't tested Grok 4, what are you sort of seeing with this? Because you've been on the Grok train for a while. You've been one of the biggest evangelists of this early on.
I
Because
know.
you were telling me like it's really, really good. And I was actually testing Grok 3 before it went off the rails. I was super impressed by all that. So what have you seen about Grok 4? And what do you think about the
So I went pretty hard yesterday testing it out for sure. What I will say is, like, before Grok 4 came out, I would say probably for the last 2, maybe 3 weeks, Grok 3 just didn't feel quite as smart as some of the other models. And I would find myself more and more, for just like different edge cases, going to ChatGPT and asking it questions. So it kind of brings it back to the old classic. Grok 4 came out yesterday. I extensively tested it, and it is now the #1 model again. So it's so tricky with these because like everyone's constantly releasing updates and they are leapfrogging each other. There's no way that anyone's going to release an update that's worse in the benchmarks than whoever's at the front. So I'm really impressed with them. They have a solid team. They just raised another $10 billion, $5 million of equity, $5 million of debt. They've raised 17 billion total. So like they're going to be fine. They're going to be cruising. And obviously it's, I think the secret sauce why Grok has been able to get so good out of the gate, because if you remember, just 12 months ago, there was no Grok 2. Grok did not exist. So 12 months we've gotten Grok 2, 3, now 4, and 4 heavy, which I'll talk about a little bit. But basically this model is, Elon Musk quoted as saying like it is better than a PhD in every single category, hands down. And according to the benchmarks, it's true. It's just like really, really smart. What's interesting is like if you look at a bunch of the benchmarks, Grok 4 smokes everybody, like really, really smokes everybody as far as intelligence goes. So if you want a model that is the smartest and is going to give you the best answer, Grok 4 hands down. But it comes with some costs, and it is not the best at everything. So a benchmark that I really like to look at, I don't know if you've played around with it much, Connor. It's actually the benchmark that I have embedded into AI Box so you can go kind of compare all the models on the platform, like what their standing is. It's called artificial analysis. And the reason why I love it is because it doesn't just test like how smart it is or how good it is at math or one specific domain. It tests the model on a whole bunch of things, including how many words per second it can spit out or tokens per second it can spit out, what the cost is per token. Like, so it goes through all of these things. And I think the grand overview, without you having to go to one of these benchmark platforms and dig through the data, is basically Grok 4 is the smartest, but it is slower than OpenAI and Google by about 50%. The context window, so it can do about 250,000 tokens. OpenAI does about 200,000. Claude does about 200,000. Google does 1 million. Yeah, so it's 50,000 higher than Claude and OpenAI there. So, I'll give them their flowers there, because not everyone's going to do 1 million context tokens like Google, who literally just begging people to use it, and probably the major loss leader there. Like, there's no way they're making money on that. They're beating them there. But the two areas that Grok is not winning on, number one is token output speed. They're about half as fast as Google and OpenAI, and they're they're like very close to Anthropic, depending on which model, or a little faster and a little slower, depending on which model of Anthropic. So about the same token output speed there. And then finally, cost. OpenAI and Google are both cheaper than Grok by some percentage. So they're not the cheapest, they're not the fastest, they are the smartest, and they're kind of middle of the pack for what their context is. So that's the giant overview.
What's the cost? I mean, I know there's a $300 a month charge, but can you get a version of Grok 4 that you're not paying for? I mean, it's so recent, I haven't even seen that.
Yeah. So you can have. So Grok 4 Heavy is like their big $300 that they're kind of like talking to everyone about. You can use it for free, kind of like OpenAI if you want the basic, and you get access to Grok 3 on free. You also have like a $30 a month tier. And I actually get access, I believe, to what they're calling like Super Grok, which is, I don't know why they're calling it Super Grok. I think that's the weirdest branding. They should have stuck with Grok, but like, what? I have no idea. I'm not ever calling it Super Grok, whatever. So, so it's $30 a month, but I think I actually get access to it because I have like the Twitter premium subscription, which Twitter, got acquired into them. So whatever. So if you have Twitter premium, you can use Twitter to log in and get it. And I think that's like $17 a month that I pay for it. So
I think I have that too. By the way, Super Grok, I mean, they think that this is like the end of history with Grok. Like they think this is it. You're never going to have a better Grok. Like it feels like they're sort of like, they moved a little early on calling it Super Grok, because next year Super Grok is going to look like a clown show. Do you know what I mean? Like that's the part I don't understand about these naming conventions and everything else. But Jaeden,
I think they're just calling the whole thing Super Grok, but the levels are like Grok 3 and 4. Oh, yeah, I know, right? Crazy.
Brutal. Okay, so here's the thing though that everybody is sort of like talking about too, right? So Grok 4, great. It could be a little bit better, but nobody tends to sort of like, nobody needs what the benchmarks kind of represent in my opinion. But Grok 3, it going off the rails was more significant than just Google Gemini telling you to put, glue on your pizza. I thought that the Gemini got really pounded for that. And I thought sort of unfairly about like, oh, you can eat rocks or whatever. And it was a little unfair because it's like, look, they're still tweaking the model. The problem with Grok 3 going off the rails is that Elon clearly did something, because he was advertising over, was it July 4th? Advertising that they were tweaking it. Because Jaeden, you remember in the early days, you and I talked about this, when Grok first came out, the whole idea was it was going to be this kind of politically incorrect, new large language model that wasn't going to adhere to the rules of the man and all that kind of stuff. And, I think you and I talked about this even back in the day, where even if I am not aligned with Elon and how Elon, lives his life and his politics and everything else, I did sort of see the value of this, right? I mean, people who really wanted their own large language model that would sort of like talk like them, I'm cool with that. That's fine. But this notion where he all of a sudden started really tweaking it, and I don't know if it's fine tuning or whatever you even call it, but putting certain things in place where it would make Elon look better or Trump look better or something like that seemed wildly off what people want. And then you get into all the horrific stuff around, oh, well, this is, Hitler and all this crazy anti-Semitic stuff. And it's not that it did it in every output, but the fact that you could get that output when that should be guardrail number one in every single language model. And the fact that Elon was talking about the change, and this was the change, that's what got me nervous. It calls into question a little bit what their business model is. I mean, I know Elon has his, he has his Tesla, he has his SpaceX, he has enough, and robotics, he has enough places to put this foundational model. However, there can be no talk of other enterprises using this in the same way. Anthropic is now at, 4 billion ARR or whatever, and OpenAI is at like 10. There can be no even consideration of using Grok as an enterprise model, right?
Yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting. I mean, basically, in my opinion, it's like he was like, okay, we're going to make it like super no guardrails. And you can see why these companies are spending billions of dollars to put guardrails on. It's interesting, too, because it's like Grok 3, they took the guardrails off for one day. It goes off the deep end or whatever.
Yeah.
I think, I'm trying to remember, but I think Google or Microsoft had some sort of anti-Semitic Hitler Nazi AI problem like a long time ago too. So this isn't
Right.
like new. I think this happened a long time ago, and that's kind of why Silicon Valley's like so gung ho on guardrails. Elon was like, let's take them off for a minute. I think we saw what happens when they're completely off. So then he's like, okay,
Right.
we'll just. But it's kind of funny. I think the only reason, his only saving grace is that it was like Grok 3 on the the day before Grok 4 came out, and then he's like, okay, like don't worry, it's a new model now, guys, like
Yeah.
whatever. So I mean, maybe he'll have some carryover. I get what you're saying though. Like there definitely is like some sort of reputational risk, I think, for companies. That being said, right, like these are also, I think we do have to put a little grain of salt on the fact that it's sort of like when the New York Times was like testing out OpenAI at the beginning and was like,
Yeah.
OpenAI said it like fell in love with me and blah
Yeah.
blah blah
Oh,
blah.
yeah.
But really, they were like literally act like you were falling in love with me
I
and
know.
talk
I
to me,
know.
and then
I know.
it like does that, and they're like, it's great. So it's like obviously people are prompting it to say these kind of things. I think
Yes.
for your average company, if you're like, hey, write me up a business proposal about X, Y, and Z, it's not going to be like blah
Yeah.
blah blah Hitler blah blah blah, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not just gonna like embed that in there.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you, and I think Elon does get called out. This is the one good thing about Elon, I will say,
Yeah.
because I get like people do have issues with him. There is a very fast feedback loop on Twitter,
Yes.
so
That's true.
he's like, it feels like he's like live testing everything in public, but when there's like a backlash, it like immediately gets like he gets the message. He's not, it doesn't, he's like, we're gonna test guardrails, and it's like 2 hours later, everyone's posting everything. He's like, okay, bad idea, we're changing it. It's like done,
Yeah.
So like, I think at least I think at least the big like public outbursts or whatever, they're short. That's the one good thing. I feel like not every tech founder feels as quite as like quote unquote accessible. Obviously, he's like not super accessible, but like influencers on Twitter will tweet at him and he'll respond within an
Yeah.
hour. So that is
No,
good.
I
I
think
think
that's
the
huge.
problems will get fixed.
That's huge. I mean, but I agree. And the thing is, Elon has nothing to lose, really. Do you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't care
Yeah.
if it's stock tanks and stuff like that. And so, and I think that, one of the things seems to be that I'm sure that they have a red team, but it also feels like the world is their red team, and they're
Hmm.
just like, hey, go see. And you're right. It's
That's
sort of like
true.
DeepSeek. It's not like, you're going to sort of say like, hey, write me a report on this. And it's going to be like, well, Tiananmen Square was a
Right.
mythical, like it's so you're right. And yet people are, this is why Gemini moved slower. Do you know what I mean? Like, and Microsoft moved slower. Like they just have more to lose. But anyway, all right, we will keep on testing Grok. I encourage you all to test out Grok again. Hopefully, I think the guardrails are back on. Everything else, continue to try jailbreak this stuff if you want, red team it. But for the most part, it's just interesting, as Jaeden was saying. These things shift almost like daily. So keep on trying them out. AI Box is a great system. If you just want to pay $20 a month and have access to all these, it's a great way to test all these things out. And otherwise, listen, thank you for tuning in. Try out all this stuff. Let us know what you think. Leave a rating and review. We always appreciate it. And we will see you next time.